Hola, amigos. Strings and Pages. With me, your host, Kevin Sullivan. Glad to have you. We're knees deep in the Rings of Hydra, Great Escape. We're on Chapter 13, Lucky 1-3. Let's just jump right into that then. Lucky 1-3. Chapter 13. The brothers pulled into a dream come true. The cab ride from the lock to the construction site took about an hour. Roughly the same distance from their current cube. Should they continue to live in the same cube, they had no indication they would be living anywhere else during the build. They would be making this trek twice a day until moving in. It was more riding than they would normally want to endure, but in this case, it was a trip they were thrilled to make. The destination made everything wonderful. The first noticeable difference between the capital district and their soon-to-be new cluster was the air quality. Their current home environment delivered an unhealthy dose of smog, the same substance that coated everything. It smelled, it blotted out the light to some degree, and it could even be tasted. It was dirty, and it was depressing. This place had very little of the stuff. The only thing hiding the sun were the clouds. There were also tarps set up to protect the workers as they built the place, but these were temporary. The air was clean and smelled of the ocean breeze. The brothers figured they must be close to the edge, only they didn't know exactly how close until they got out of the cab. With a stretch of their legs, David and Joe walked towards the site entrance. The ledge leading to the site blocked their view. It also acted as a security measure to keep the general population out. This was during working hours, however, and it was easy to gain access. When they reached the top of the stairs, they took a moment to look at what would be their new home. The view down upon the new cluster was exciting despite the blue and green tarpaulin canopies covering most of it. They could even see the ocean from where they stood. "Can you believe this is actually happening?" Joe asked as he gripped his brother's shoulder. David shook his head. "Pinch me," he said. "I feel like I'm about to wake up any second." He looked at Joe, who said, "We're about to build our own edge-side cubes, man." With a shared laugh, the brothers embraced each other once again. This really was like winning the lottery, and they knew it. "I want to say you're the first guys I've found hugging it out up here," an approaching voice said. The Hagans broke it off and looked around. The man waved and said with a laugh, "You could have kept going. I guess this is your first time here." He stuck out his hand. "Ben Thomas. I'm the job site foreman. You must be the Hagans." "I'm David and this is Joe," David said. They both shook the man's hand. "Pleasure, sir," Joe said. "Call me Thomas, not sir. I've been told you guys are added to the roster and will begin immediately." He looked at them above his glasses. "I don't know who you guys know, but they must have some real pull. You got the last 2 units in the entire cluster." David and Joe looked at each other again, realizing how amazingly lucky they had been to have the chain of events play out the way they did. The Feed Us Now mob burning down their old street, fighting for their lives to make it to that alley and meeting Evans in the aftermath. Being placed in the right cube to take a walk that particular night, meeting Jen Reed and finding out about this program. Everything fell exactly into the right place to formulate this moment they were living. It was surreal and fantastic. "That's our old pal Evans," Joe said. David might have kept that one on the low, yet he didn't mind Joe's outburst. He was clearly ecstatic. Thomas simply nodded with a smile. "Okay," he said. "I understand you're both Class B, so that means welding?" The Hagans nodded. "Carpentry? Plumbing?" More nods. "Great! You're ahead of the game," Thomas said. "Everything else we'll need, we already have. So let's go look at this site." Things got better by the second. The cluster was a small one, made of only 5 curved avenues of cubes. The wonderful part was their size. Most of the site at this point consisted of the groundwork. The footprints, the platforms above the grate, the necessary piping work. There was still a lot more work to be done here. The only avenue that was complete enough to enter any of the cubes was in the first row. "Care to take a peek?" Thomas asked as they passed. "We'd love to," Joe said. "Follow me then," Thomas said. He waved to a worker who was applying a clear coat over the metal box that would soon be someone's home. "Come on in." Thomas stepped inside, followed by the brothers. This was easily 5 times the size of the box they currently lived in. David was awed. He looked around, noting this place had a bathroom area that 3 people could fit into. There were 2 bedrooms and a kitchen, each with its own window, one that you could actually see through. Every room had its own light, its own fan, and a switch to control it. The kitchen was something that Melinda would liken to a dream. David turned to Joe, who was as excited as he was and doing a good job of hiding it. "It looks fantastic," David said. "When do we get to work?" Joe asked. Thomas replied, "Work starts now, gentlemen. Let's go get some tools, some safety equipment, and I'll get you up and running." "Easy," David said. "Little more to the left. Right there. Drop it." The crane operator released a beam onto the grate that was the ring's floor, and the brothers made quick work of welding its edges in place. This was the beginning, the first piece of the rest of their lives. As the crane departed for the next beam, the brothers gave each other a look of satisfaction. It was unbelievable that this would be their home, such a location, with such a dazzling view of the sea. It was so enticing that it was hard to stay focused on the job at hand. It didn't take long for that next beam to show up, though, and they were right back to work. Welding was only the beginning. The beams would need to be ground and cleaned, then coated with a protective polymer to extend their life here on the sea. Connections would need to be made to join the beams together to create the cubes. Given the size of the homes, these structures would be much more complex than their current homes. Not that anyone minded, solving these puzzles would be a privilege. After a few more hours, the day had escaped. It was quitting time, and the cab would be waiting soon. They hadn't built anything to completion, but they weren't expected to either. Finishing this job would be a months-long process. But for the first day, they hadn't done so bad, especially considering they started the day at the lock. "Good to meet you, Thomas," Joe said. "Yes, it's been a pleasure," David added. Thomas was signing the workers out at the site entrance. He shook hands with the Hagans once again, wished them well, until tomorrow. Joe looked at the sun setting below the ocean horizon. "It's beautiful," he said. It reminded him of something else just as beautiful in a different way, and he thought maybe he would try and contact Jen when they got home. He was sure she'd love to hear he had made it into the program. Joe turned to catch up with David, who had left for the parking area. Only he got hung up when his gaze landed upon a group of faces farther back in the sign-out line. It was Reynolds and gang. One of them, Dizzy, if Joe remembered correctly, was glaring in his direction. Joe thought of waving, considered any alternatives, then decided against them all. He turned and made it for the lot. This has been Chapter 13 of The Rings of Hydra's Great Escape. I thank you for your time and your ears and your attention, your imagination. Thank you for spending a little bit of that on me. I'd love to have you. A like or a subscribe would go a long way. I love you. I'll see you on the page.